Hello, I'm Reginald Bullock, and I am the author of Father to Son, A Guide to Growing Up in a Difficult World. This next chapter, Friendship, I wrote, and hindsight 2020 is always different for you, right? Because I'm working on a third book, and the title of that chapter is just ships, relationships, friendships. I mean, there's so many ships. Um, that I just decided the title is ships, and then everything else becomes a sub chapter. But friendship, right? What is a friend? How do you know when you found a friend? And here we are in 2021, and people are unfriending friends. Well, how do you do that, right? I mean, if they're a friend, do you unfriend a friend? Were they a friend in the first place? What is a friend? What is a true friend? So, particularly young people, when they are growing up, that conversation and discussion and just philosophy and breakdown of what a friendship or a friend is doesn't always happen. Um, I never had that conversation. Certainly, I never had a father, but that conversation doesn't happen. And you're left to figure it all out, particularly amongst your peers. Well, they don't know anything more than you know, other than maybe what their parents told them, but they don't have experience to truly help you understand friendship. So this chapter tries to do that. And, hopefully I succeeded. So enjoy the chapter.
Chapter 8 Friendship. Emerson once said, "A friend may well be reckoned the masterpiece of nature." He also said, "The only way to have a friend is to be one." Son, I wish I could tell you how to know when you have found a friend. In my travels throughout the world, I have met well over tens of thousands of people. I have shaken hands and looked eyeball to eyeball with people I cannot even remember. I have worked with thousands of people, and it is hard sometimes to even remember what they look like. I send out more than 100 Christmas cards every year, and I never receive even half back in reply. I cannot even remember all the names of the many so-called friends I grew up with. Some were even short-term girlfriends. When it comes to friends, I sometimes ask people to think about all the classmates and friends they have had from first grade to the last day of high school or college, and tell me how many they keep in touch with as friends. Even they are surprised when they begin to try and recall the faces. I have no real definition of philosophy on friendship. I do have a couple of true friends and several whom are close, but not as close as my true friends. My true friends will do almost anything I ask them to do without question. Whether it is financially, morally, spiritually, emotionally, they are there and will always be there. If I should be out of communication with them for 10 years, the friendship continues to grow. And when we finally meet or communicate, it is like a continuation of yesterday. Equally, I am willing to do whatever they ask of me. I will even risk my life for a true friend. Do you truly feel that you are your brother's keeper? Do you truly want for your brother that which you want for yourself? While I could go on, I could never really convey to you what friendship is all about. It is a feeling which cannot be expressed in words. Although you and that true friend may have never established that title verbally, without even saying anything, you know. I caution you to never search for friendship. Allow it to evolve. Trust no one because they are your friend, rather because they earned your trust. As for secrets, I learned in the military the best way to keep a secret is not to tell anyone. Do not tell a soul. If you do, it is no longer a secret, it is news. Son, I would like to also mention that while I may have a couple of true friends, they are also human. They are also capable of making mistakes. In most cases, you will forgive a friend for making a mistake. You will do almost anything to preserve the friendship. You will even trust them. To put your trust in someone is a dangerous thing. When you trust someone, you are giving them a part of you. If the trust is ever violated, you lose that part of you. Should you ever be betrayed by someone you considered your friend, you will see a side of you that you never knew existed. You may even scare yourself. Once I had a very good friend whom I grew to trust. He was my right hand in a business I owned called Third Dimension Sound. Although he was not always on time, he was otherwise dependable. He did whatever I asked him to do, and I took care of him as best as I could. One day, he got married. Although I was excited for him getting married, I was not excited about his choice. The same year he got married, my wife and I had to relocate from Hampton, Virginia to Philadelphia due to a career progression. Because he was such a close friend and because he had just got married and his wife was due to have a baby, and because his financial status was not where he would have liked it to be, I offered to let him rent my newly rebuilt, completely renovated house. Why not? After all, he did help me with some of the renovations. As a matter of fact, I offered to rent it to him for half the mortgage because of his financial status. We agreed with a handshake. Big mistake. At first, he was only paying about a week late. Next, he was about 3 weeks behind. Since I was now in Philadelphia and could not talk to him face to face, I called him and asked about the money. He told me it was in the mail. It was, just not all of it. This went on for several months. Mind you, he was only paying half the mortgage, which meant I had to pay the other half. After a while, I got tired of paying the entire mortgage for him and his family to live, and paying my expenses in Philadelphia for me and my family to live. Not to mention, I was struggling to make it in life like everyone else. I called him and asked him what was the problem. I found out he had given his wife the responsibility of paying the bills, and he thought I was receiving the money that he gave her to send me. When he told me that, I lost it. I cursed him out so bad. To this day, I still feel sorry for the things I said to him. Since I could not physically express my feelings on him, I hurt his feelings as painfully as I could on the telephone. I gave him 1 week to vacate my property and told him that anything left in the house after that week was mine. I also told him that if after 1 week he was found on my property, he would be considered trespassing. After hanging up the phone, I cried. I loved this man as if he were my brother, and it hurt to have to put him out. I hope one day he and I will meet face to face and resolve our differences. We lost contact after he moved out. I still consider him a friend, but you have to be careful who you trust. Because the change in our relationship was after his marriage, I am willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Had it happened straight from him, I would have treated him like an enemy. Speaking of marriages, having been in the military, I have seen all sorts of marriages come and go. I have seen people marry natives from so many countries and not even be able to communicate because of the language differences. I have also seen where a spouse from another country was the best thing that ever happened to some people. I am constantly surprised at the divorce rate and second and third marriages I see from the military. One of my true friends has just married for the third time. I have to give him credit. I think his first wife lasted 6 or 7 months, and his second wife lasted 2 or 3 months. As soon as he realized his mistake, he corrected it. I think one took some money from him and tried to steal his car or something to that effect. I'm not sure about the other one. Oh well. He is married now for the third time, so we will see what happens. It is not easy choosing a spouse to spend the rest of your life with. Look at the divorce rates. That tells you how well people are at making decisions. When it comes to a house, people spend hours of research, consult all sorts of professionals, surf the internet, contemplate for a while, narrow the choices down from several, then make their decision. When it comes to a spouse, you should do more than that. However, most people do not. Marriage is truly one of the biggest decisions and investments you will ever make. And if you ask people to tell you how they met and married, you will get all sorts of interesting stories. In my case, it was also interesting. I was attending Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, majoring in menswear design and marketing. Somewhere around December 5th, 1981, at about 5 p.m. on a Sunday, I was working on a term project in the design lab. While working on my project, a pretty young lady whom I had never seen before walked into the room and started talking to my friend. After a few minutes went by, I asked my friend if he was going to introduce me to his friend. He did. Because I was a well-known disc jockey in the city, I asked if she ever heard of me. Of course, she said no. That hurt my ego. After a few more questions, I asked her what she was doing at the school on a Sunday night. She replied she was looking for a typewriter to do a final term paper. Because there were no classes or labs with typewriters open at that hour on a Sunday evening, I offered to allow her the use of my typewriter. I told her that since I had an apartment right across the street from school, it was no imposition. She agreed, and we left. While she typed, I cooked dinner. I made her take a break for dinner, and after dinner, she went straight back to her work. When she finished, we talked for a few minutes and exchanged numbers in case she needed a typewriter again. She then called the limousine service for a ride and went home. The next day, I called her, and she asked if she could use my typewriter again. That was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. A few weeks later, she dissolved the relationship with her boyfriend, and I gave up my relationships as well. We were inseparable. A very close friend called it sickening love. We did not have a care in the world other than each other. Shortly after we met, I found out I had passed the entrance exam, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, for the Air Force. That meant I had to leave New York in March to prepare for Air Force basic training in May. Because I wanted my then-girlfriend to finish school, I made a deal with her. I told her that after going through all the training and ending up wherever in the world I may end up, if the relationship is still strong, I may marry her. I completed my 4 months of training and ended up in Germany. Throughout the entire separation, we wrote each other almost every day. I would send 20 birthday cards, 15 Christmas cards, 20 Valentine's Day cards, all sorts of other cards, letter tapes, regular letters, almost every day, and lots of packages. We communicated almost every day by correspondence for more than 2 years, thanks to the U.S. Postal Service. In December 1983, she and my mother flew to Germany to visit me. Mom stayed for 3 weeks, and Esther stayed for 6. On Christmas Eve, I proposed to her, and we became engaged. We took our engagement honeymoon in Paris on New Year's Eve. She later went back to New York and secured a position as a textiles designer. In March 1984, I went home on emergency leave because my grandfather was dying. She came to Philadelphia to be with me. After the funeral, I told my mother, jokingly, we were going to get married while I was home. Since economically in the military I would get an extreme increase in pay if I was married, this would have allowed us to save more for our home furnishings. Of course, Mom did not believe me, so we did it. In a few days, we were married. We contacted all the immediate family for their blessings, prepared all the logistics, and did it. Since there was a family bus trip leaving from the church we were getting married in, we decided to wait until the bus left and allow the minister to marry us in private. It would not have been fair to have only one half of the family there, so we elected not to have any of the family present. However, we would have a reception months later when I returned back to the United States permanently. In September, after my Germany tour of duty was completed, we held the best outdoor reception Southampton, Long Island has ever seen. We still talk about how much fun we had that day and night. What a party. That is the story of how we got married. We were very good friends first. We fell in love afterwards. We tested the love with time and distance. Then we made a promise to each other. I cannot tell you how to select the right person, but I can say this. I married one of my true friends. My wife knows almost everything about me, and in spite of myself, she still loves me. That is friendship. Defining friendship and describing friendship is not an easy thing to do. Through this chapter, I've tried to convey to you not only the meaning of friendship and how it evolves, but some of the dangers and hazards that can occur. Through my experiences, perhaps you will be able to see a couple of your mistakes before you make them, thus bypassing those errors. Keep in mind that not everyone who tries to be your friend is a friend. Sometimes people use the term friendship in order to use you. They play on your feelings until they have control over you through your feelings. Conversely, when you are not even looking or not even trying to find a friend, there you have it. A friend for life who will stick with you through thick and thin. When that happens, you will know. You will understand the mutual responsibility that you have in maintaining the trust and respect that is required of true friends. It may not be easy, but it is sure worth it as the years pass by. I cannot remember where I acquired this poem from, but I think it is worth passing on to you. An old man once said, "I've come to know as I grow old that friends are worth their weight in gold, and that a hand clasp and a smile are things that make this life worthwhile. Likewise, I find, as life speeds by, that treasures in my friendships lie, and all the money in the end can scarce compare to one kind friend."